Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 21 of Sundays Are for Contemplation. I'm your host, Sof, and this is your host, Nicole.
Hello.
And we're
God.
here today with a very special guest who is part of our second residency ever, the Digital Renaissance Residency, Jean. How are you, Jean? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Is that the correct pronunciation of your artist name?
It's always the first question with me, I'm afraid. It's supposed to be Jean, but I've heard everything from Chaen to Jane to Jean to Sean to John to I don't care. Whatever pronunciation is fine.
Mm-hmm. So you're an artist and you're based out of France, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay.
Hence the outrageous accent, yeah.
Yeah, that's very nice. What kind of medium is your specialty?
Specialty. Strange word. Uh, Used to be more like drawing, either physical drawing or digital drawing, but with time, I started to incorporate frame by frame animation, and now it's more like I mix handmade AI generations, heavy editing or processing. There's music too, so it's much more like a multimedia approach or mixed media.
Hmm.
Mostly digital for 5 years now.
Right, for 5 years. And is that about like when you entered into Web3, or was your introduction into Web3 in a different timeline?
Yeah, about. I mean, I've always used digital tools like since I was maybe a teenager, or I can remember as a kid doing pixel art on an old Amiga, probably in the 90s. So it's older, but so I was basically mainly using Photoshop, especially for commercial gigs. And I've done music forever on the computer, so that's not new either. But focusing really on it exclusively is since the NFTs. Yeah,
Hmm.
I used to love it, but then when you wanted to exhibit something, you could not really do it if it was digital. You would always need to have something like a print, a 3D print, using maybe AR in some circumstances to make the digital fit inside the physical space. But
Hmm.
since NFTs came around, it became not requisite. Like you can have digital art uh, experience in a digital way, and it's easier.
Right.
So
And
I was
I
gonna ask
know,
something real quick.
go
Just out
ahead,
of
go
curious,
ahead.
sorry to interrupt, but I was a bit curious. So from what I'm understanding is that you've been doing art your whole life. Is there something specifically that kind of brought you into art, or did you always know you were an artist? Like it was like a thing that since like a little kid, or did someone else in your family were they also artists?
I think it's been there forever. I've But for some part, from some part of my life, I didn't expect to be necessarily a full-time artist all the time. Well, I was drawing, creating worlds as a kid, like since as long as I can remember. So that's for sure. And then when I finished high school, I tried to get into a fine art school, and I completely missed the exam, which I wasn't mature enough. And funnily, like everyone was at least 2 or 3 years older than end of high school age. So it made sense. And my idea at the time was like, I'm going to do some kind of foreign languages classes in university. And then after 1 or 2 years, I will go back to a fine art school and try again. And I just liked, sorry, I just like foreign languages so much. I just stayed in these courses, and it lasted for 8 years. I have two master's degrees in Japanese and English, and that's basically so. I just got carried away, I guess, and I really liked it. But I finished the second master's degrees with a thesis on Murakami Takashi, the Japanese artist, and so I spent a year researching and writing about contemporary art, and I was still doing art on the side. And I was like, okay, so now I've been offered to do, a PhD and become a kind of sociologist or anthropologist of contemporary Japanese art, which sounded like something I would love, but I was faced with either studying someone else's art for the rest of my life, or actually saying 8 years is enough of studies. I will just do my own art and nothing else. So, well, I chose the second, but I could have had a very different life and still be happy, I guess.
Hmm. And that's something to note about is that you have such exposure to like international art. I feel like in our residencies as well, like we have such an international community, and I always wonder how that affects people's final projects. And I wanted to ask you then, how do you think that your exposure to, the culture of Japan, for example, has directly influenced your creativity?
Uh, I'm not really sure there's like a very distinct direct influence. For sure, like what I've studied and researched have had some influences. For example, maybe more like abstract concepts such as historically in Japan, uh, the graphic nature of the work, the composition has always been more focused on doing something that looks good and is properly balanced and has a kind of graphic energy. So very, very flat, as opposed to do something that is very realistic and with the proper perspective and trying to achieve this kind of illusion. I really liked that about a part of Japanese art that is just do whatever you want that looks good and is interesting visually. It doesn't matter if it's realistic. It's not the goal. The goal is to make art, and I think that's very something that I can relate to. I've never really to me technique and a kind of constrained realism has always been something that I would use to do something, but it's not an end in itself. It's not something I'm like chasing or yeah. Maybe that
Hmm.
part. But then if you look at my art, I don't think you'll find something that is very Japanese. Well, or at least it's not obvious. As for the international part, I guess we've, like most artists today, we're exposed to anything, anywhere in the world. Granted, if you want to have a look and research a bit. So I think we're probably in an age of some kind of generalized and eclecticism. Um, and I really love it. I think diversity in itself, wherever you can look, if it's biodiversity or diversity of people or culture, is something that is inherently good and nurturing for anyone. So
Hmm.
I like having this kind of mix of people and influences, and having worked for a long time for with people from all over the world. It's really cool because you can see what's not universal and interesting to discover. And on the opposite side, you can see that some people who live in Lagos, Turkey, Vietnam, whatever, they will have the same problem and the same questions and quests as you have in your Western country. And it's interesting.
Hmm. Yeah. Honestly, thank you. That was a very detailed response, and I'm glad you were able to answer it fully. I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to ask you something that I think for a lot of Web3 artists is a little bit boring just because it's been asked so much, but I think it helps our audience definitely orient themselves and everyone get to know better. Um, about when did you start getting into Web3? Like what year and how did you find out about it, and how has your experience been so far?
So I found about NFTs in 2020. Like I said, I was already using digital tools and techniques, and I was frustrated because I couldn't really use it in trying to get art into galleries and stuff like that. So at some point, I was just uh, I had this frustration building up, and then a friend who was obviously into cryptocurrencies uh, was like, you should have a look at blockchains. Do you know what is an NFT? I was like, no, I don't know. I'm not really sure it's for me. It seems I don't really understand everything, and you know. I wasn't really charmed, seduced by it from a distant perspective. But at some point, he was like, "No, I think you should really look into it. It would work for you." And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to give it a look and follow your advice." And at first, I was just buried in trying to understand what was going on the technical level and also on the philosophical level, because there is an ethos behind the blockchain that is very it goes deep, and I think you need time to actually understand what's really going on, what it means to have a distributed ledger or to have something that is very decentralized, and all that kind of stuff, and what it means to have authenticated, uh, authenticated, sorry, digital object living on the blockchain. It's still, I think, not understood by most of the people in the world. It's something that we in our space take for granted, but it's still kind of magical to me. And when I finally understood it, most of it, I mean, um, I was just like, oh, this is what I was actually looking for, a place for digital art to not need anything physical to exist and be valued and collected and exchanged. And obviously, for lots of artists, it was just another way to sell art. So just another selling avenue. And for me, it was more like a release of that frustration, a liberation, like, finally, there is a home for digital art and its NFTs. So I guess that's the first impetus I got, and that made me just go fully for it and never look back. But also, of course, it was at the dawn of COVID. So with the lockdown and everything, like everyone else, it was the perfect time to dig into something very digital and focus on that. And since then, it's been great. um, it's my full-time job, so I can't complain. I've been exhibiting all over the world, even more than before, um, and even managed to have something that was born before NFTs, but became an NFT after. Um, I was the art director of a project that gathered 60 artists from everywhere in the world, all kind of techniques and backgrounds, and we made 500 works of art inspired by dreams of the future that people would contribute from, again, all over the world. Put them together, exhibit these works, and from the top of the mountain Manaslu in Nepal to the giant screens of Times Square to Australia, Chengdu in China, many places in Europe, etc. And finally in space in the International Space Station, which was amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was also another big adventure with a company called Dreamy. And yeah, so lots of really exciting stuff happens still. And I grew more and more interested in what the technology can achieve for us, either for the actual art that you see and experience, and also for what the token, the what you can do and interact when you're dealing with the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
No, for sure. I also wanted to ask, going back to what you were talking about, diversity and how you see it as a very important um, need for humanity. Um,
Not
and I
just
know, I
humanity.
mean,
Sorry,
but not just for
I
humanity,
wanted to
but
say
for
not just for humanity, because if you look at nature, if you have an ecosystem with not
everything.
many species,
Hmm.
it's going to die. If you look at a population of any mammal, and if there's not enough of them and they're not different enough, they're going to get inbred and become super sick and probably eventually die out. So it's not a left versus right. It's not something like
Hmm.
that. It's not woke versus conservative.
Yeah,
It's something that is deeply necessary for all life forms. So I think
yeah.
it's beyond the political. Something that we need.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. No, I agree. No, thank you for clarifying because I was trying to conceptualize like how you said it in a shorter way, but of course, I was um, thinking of humanity and also the sense of like the ecosystems we live in and how we interact. But I thank you for the clarification. um, but kind of going back to that point, I do feel like the art world always, or the recent art world tends to be international to a certain extent. I feel artists do a lot of residencies abroad, and they interact with artists from other places. But I kind of wanted to ask you about the Web3 ecosystem and like how it maybe has changed and increase, not maybe not increasing diversity, but maybe encouraging it or making it more accessible. I don't know if you have any opinions on like how it differs from the traditional art world, and maybe like what potential it might lead us to.
Yeah, there's lots to be said, I guess. Now it's getting more. Yeah, it's still very different. Some stuff has kind of morphed into something that looks a bit more like the trad art world. Now you start to see uh, normal, sorry, quotation marks, normal curation stuff that really looks like it could be part of the normal what you would expect from the contemporary art world, and stuff that shouldn't be there, in my opinion, like private sales, the kind of obfuscated thing that is kind of against the ethos of the blockchain. So it's not all good, but it's still very different. I think it's more open geographically. It's not as perfect as people would say, because if you want to make a living out of it, at some point you have to meet people in real life, and obviously there is a big. Um, I think the most active part of the crypto art world is either in the US or Europe. So if you're from outside that zone of the world, it's going to be maybe a bit more complex. But we have a few examples of artists who made it and are not part of this part of the world. So I think it's still working, right? So that's one thing that's pretty cool. And also the absolute, this is changing. It used to be absolute, um, kind of, I don't know how to say it properly. Sorry. There's a bit of snobby taste. Like, by snobby, I mean you wouldn't dare collect something even if you liked it, because you're afraid that someone is going to say, oh, you have bad taste or something like that. I think that was less the case, and is still less the case in crypto art. So you have lots of funny, outrageous, sometimes naive, brute, or even downright amateur art that is doing very well in crypto art. And I think it's good. It's a good thing. But at the same time, I see that the general taste, it's hard to make generalizations, of course,
Mm-hmm.
is softly shifting to collectors trying to look more serious in their collection, which is it's a bit sad for me. It's like they're looking for respectability instead of the initial, oh, that's crazy, that's great, that's funny, that's exciting. I'm going to go for it because I feel something. And now you see like it's very, oh, you have to curate your collection, you have to blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Uh, it's still maybe more free than the traditional art world as a kind of spirit of what you can collect and how you can express your freedom. And fortunately, lots of collectors just collect whatever they want. But the discussion and the overall market has shifted slightly. Maybe it's okay. I don't know.
Hmm. I think that's like one thing that a lot of artists in this space are constantly thinking about is the market fluctuation. And I, as a kind of recent artist myself, sometimes the energy gets contagious. And as much as I don't want to think about, like, oh, like, Solana's up, Solana's down, or whatever else, it, at a certain point, like, when everyone talks about it, it does get overwhelming. And I think it's a little bit hard sometimes to differentiate from all the noise that's out there and to just really focus on like what you're creating. And I think there's also a big difference recently with a lot of artists, like, for example, who started off offline and then with artists who have always been digitally native. And by this, I mean, like, for example, someone who's from, Gen Z, like my age, we've always been super connected online. And I think maybe we could sometimes be used to like the noise that's present. And then artists who have been practicing way before like social media was like really a thing. I think they have a much different way of like relating to their art without thinking about collectors. Um, and I don't know, I just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts a little bit about that as well. Like, do you, for example, really take into mind what a collector might think about your piece when you release it? Do you try not to care about the market? How is that process for you?
Um, I think it's something that has to be balanced in any case. You have to care a bit about the market. Uh, for example, but it's you should never worry that much. That's for sure, because otherwise you're going to be slowly cutting bits of what you are and what you want to do really, and you're going to either crinkle, turn into a small ball, and
Mm,
instead of expanding and trying to adapt and to dance with the circumstances. But that said, like for example, the question of overminting, which is like creating too many tokens. I've seen artists who just say, "Oh, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to mint whatever I like, whenever I want, in whatever quantity I want," and they have no one buying them. So it's just a pile of token uh, that's sitting there, and they have produced so much. There's no way at some point anyone is, even if some people do not collect, are to uh, thinking about scarcity and what's available and all that. I think there's a kind of limit to mine.
mhm,
That said, there have been lots of people who were too scared to mint any new piece because, oh my God, I have something that's not going to sell right away. Maybe I shouldn't do it. It's not a really good look. This is something to avoid too because sometimes I can't remember to say that, but it's sometimes to sell a new work, to sell an old work, you have to make a new work, and someone will discover that one, and maybe they will look at your collection and see, oh, I see this older one that's really great. If you stop producing and making something available, it's to your own detriment and even to your collectors in some ways. So
mhm,
there's a balance to be found, and so I do mind the market, but not really on that part. More like I don't mean somewhere where I feel it's not the right fit. Uh,
mhm,
Before in 2021, when everything was exploding, there were lots of new blockchains and everything. I think it was cool to try new things, to try new chains, to try new platforms. And I tried a lot of them. I was on all the curated platforms at some point, and which is cool. But then at some point you realize some people are not really in it for the long term. And also now I only have in mind, do I really own the token? What can I do if I need to update the metadata? Can I do it? All this stuff about basically digital art conservation in tokens. That's very important for me. So I'm just minting on my own contracts on Ethereum and Tezos and maybe a bit Solana, but that's it. I'm not going to. I think the rest, like all the chains, have uh, a potential for collectibles, like cheap, fun stuff. It's okay. You can mint them wherever you want, uh, and Bitcoin, of course. But then for art, you really need to have. It's a small market, right? There
yeah,
are not so many collectors left. I mean, real collectors, not people who just want to flip down lots of them, but collectors who actually enjoy art. This is your market. It's fairly small, and it's concentrated in two places, mainly Ethereum, uh, Tezos, and Bitcoin for some projects. So that part you have to mind. You can't complain about not selling if you're on, I don't know, whatever chain doesn't really have a market. Yeah. What was the rest of the question? You had something subtle. You asked me. I can't remember what that was, but
um
uh, the
I think
trends,
probably
the noise.
when it comes to you like making your art, like how much do you have the collectors or
Ah,
the
yeah.
market in?
So minding the market is going to be more about prices and number of editions, that kind of stuff, uh, which is cool. I mean, I don't have strong opinions. I used to prefer one of ones, and then um, I think limited editions is a really cool tool now. I used to think more like a binary. Either you make an open edition and whatever goes, goes, or you make a one of one that is going to be unique and exclusive. And now I'm just like, everything is fine. You have to mind what you want. Does it serve the artwork first? Because sometimes some artworks are meant to be distributed largely and others maybe less. So you have to see how you feel. And yeah, I'm pretty open on that kind of stuff. But then for the art, it's just a mix of what I want to do, so really spend time on because my process is a bit high effort. I can't make new pieces every day. It takes weeks, months, and so I have to be willing to spend a long time with the art I'm going to work on. So do I really enjoy what I want to do enough to spend time with it for an extended period of time? And also, does it need to exist?
Mm-hmm.
By that, I mean, uh, I'm a human being living in 2025 uh, with other human beings living in the same time, obviously. And what uh, the kind of work that I do, is it just for me or for someone else? There's no like one unique answer, but every time I try to think about that, has it been done before? It's not something I should obsess too much about, but I think about it a lot, and I like coming up with a work, thinking like no one has done it. It's meaningful, and yet no one has done it with that vantage point. Maybe for me, it's interesting and it's important. I know lots of artists who just, you know, are more working on flow of consciousness. Uh, in some ways, a work in style mostly, and they just iterate on that and they're happy with it. Uh, I could do that. I've done that a few times. Like sometimes you need to have something light and not think too much about it. But usually I'm more, like you said, I think it's a thing of generation. That was an interesting question because I've made so much art before social media. For me, it's like first an internal process, and it's something that you build and you work on, and it's not something that you show before it's finished. So it's an internalized, long process. And maybe if you were born on social media, maybe it's more like I'm going to do that. It's going to take a few hours. I'm going to film it, and it's already you're not focused on depth. You're more focused on maybe pleasure and speed. And for me, I need depth and a little bit of slowness. So yeah, it's an interesting point of view. I think, yeah, maybe there's something we cannot really measure, but with different generations and their uh, how they envision technology, it's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's something that for me is very interesting just to reflect on. And I think it was a question that we might have talked about in our residency session 2 weeks ago is as artists, how come some of us do value originality or uniqueness so much? And I think there's something that's like, there's a very simple answer that it's like, oh, well, of course, like there's nothing like it and that gives it value on its own. But then there's a much deeper, much more philosophical, reason behind it that I think I just can't quite grasp yet because it's like the question that I sort of like proposed in that session, which is like, the Duomo in Florence is beautiful, but if there happened to be 100 of them or like 1,000 of them, would we start to devalue it? Wouldn't we just,
Yeah,
you know? And it's just something to reflect on. I think, yeah.
I, I've thought about it a lot because you walk in the street and all the people that are younger than me, they all have white sneakers, for example.
Hmm.
There's not a single colorful shoe in sight, and it's to me who enjoy diversity, it's a bit sad. But then I think there are two things. First, when you're younger, especially when you're a teenager, it's different because you first learn how to behave in a tribe. It's it's not linked to a trend of that specific generation. It's just your age. We've all done that, and everyone will do that until the end of humanity, I guess. And but still, I think there's also something that is cyclical, and we tend to have cycles in fashion and trends that go like at some point the trends are more uh, energetic, dirty,
Mhm.
textured, grungy, and then there's something that is going to go the opposite way, that is more curated, cleaner, maybe more minimalistic. And it's going to come back and just do that. And yeah, and also I think that's the same in what we look for as a social body. Like so I was young between the 90s and the beginning of the year 2000, and at that point the big motto was be original, be yourself, be unique. And I don't think I'm mistaken if I say that it has kind of vanished now. Maybe it's going to come back, but not yet. And so we have that, maybe another generation with a trend of more, no, it's okay to fit in, and there's positive things about it because it's less about competition to try to be unique, to be different and stand out from everyone else. And it's more like uh, maybe there's something more positive of uh, I don't have to be on the spotlight all the time. I'm okay being within a group and not having to set myself apart. So good and bad things, all in all, but just like dancing and it's going to come back at some point. It's I think it's just that cycles, trends, and your
Mhm.
age, basically.
Yeah. Well, it makes a lot of sense. And I kind of do wonder if, for, in this day and age, maybe those people who do dare to be different or they are very different, if they have to get comfortable with being in the spotlight. Because you're kind of right about that. I think a lot of us tend to conform nowadays, and maybe not even for a bad reason, but I think we've all, the way that I perceive that mentality is because we think, oh, it's okay to be like, to have similar interests and to be part of some community that's like greater than us. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, to kind of switch topics again, to move towards the residency, I wanted to ask you first, how did you find out about it and how have you been enjoying the experience so far?
I found out about it through Kay, who is one of my collectors, basically because I saw him post about it. And so I've been working on something related to the Renaissance, the Flemish Renaissance, and more like the punk side of the Renaissance, which is the grotesque movement. So it's very different from what we're seeing in the residency. That is the opposite
Mhm.
side. That is more about ideals, uh, uh, being better, understanding better, having more knowledge. And grotesque is like the dark underground of the Renaissance. It's irrational. It's a bit savage. It's kind of like just focusing on energy and letting it out, whatever it is. So I think it's very interesting to have both sides. So I was working on that project about the Renaissance and already thinking a lot about the parallels between the digital Renaissance and the old one. And it came out that I think I will release them in September or October. So it was the perfect time to get another point of view and to engage with people and uh, yeah,
Mhm.
get deeper into what the Renaissance was, at least in Italy, and how can we relate to that? What would be different today? What are things we should maybe try to emulate, and what are things I don't want to see again? So yeah, it's very interesting.
Mhm.
So every week we have a kind sort of homeworks, which are basically parts of books to read, sometimes documentaries on techniques, on artists, etc. And yeah, I've been like everyone in the residency. I think it's you think about it like the whole week. Maybe you spend 1 or 2 days a week tops without thinking about it, but then you work on your piece for the exhibition, and then you read some stuff and you're like, oh yeah, there's that, and makes you think again what is universal, I guess, for humans, and but not this time not on a geographical sense, but more on the time-based sense, because they were living obviously like 5 centuries ago, and some stuff is still very relevant, and other stuff not so much. So that's also an interesting crash course into a sense of timelessness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the roster of artists is actually pretty good. I like it. It's very, very diverse. Like even on the technique side, by now we have seen the work in progress of I think roughly half the group, maybe. And
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting the theme is David versus Goliath, and especially the sculpture David from Michelangelo. And I was expecting some of the works to be a bit closer to each other, like to, it's going to happen. But so far, everyone has done something completely different, and it's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think from our side as well, that's something super fascinating to like watch develop is the fact that everyone's gonna have such different interpretations, process final pieces. Um, and just a comment from the organizing side of you, I always get so scared with the deadlines, but then all of a sudden, right around this time when it's like we have like 3, 4 weeks left until the final projects, people are like picking up the pace. They're sending their works in progress. They're doing like the little presentations. And then I get shocked. I'm like, oh my God, like you guys have went from, brainstorming for 3 weeks, just simply talking, to all of a sudden some of you guys have like entire works like kind of almost finished, and then it's super exciting to see the feedback, and then from now up until that point too, those like finishing touches that you'll add. The energy becomes more alive at this point in time, and it's something that like from the outside it's super fun to
Yeah.
experience.
No, and also like seeing the things that the residents talk about in the sessions and they what connects with them, then seeing that being reflected in their art is really like fun as well. Like you said, there's no piece that's the same, but you can definitely like as like from the behind the scenes, you can definitely see like where how their brains got to those ideas, and it's a lot of fun like seeing the human process of creativity. At least for me,
Yeah.
I enjoy doing that a lot.
Hmm. So, Jean, if I'm not mistaken, then are you working on two pieces now at the same time? You're working on your like punk underground grotesque interpretation of the Renaissance, and then you have this one. Ah, is that it?
Yeah,
Whoa.
it's 18 mascaron designs that were made in the Netherlands. Well, 500 years ago, by one of the first artists, I guess, from Flemish origin, who went to Rome to study the ruins of the Roman Empire and found some of it. And
Hmm.
um, so, yeah, this part is already done. Uh, it's an ongoing project because the way the tokens are structured, I can add an infinite number of variations of the art. There's already 7 different versions of the art. Some are animated, some are fully on-chain and dynamic, some are AI made, some handmade, very different. And I expect for the foreseeable future to add some new versions, like every year, and see how it goes. So it's really a long-term and complex project.
Hmm.
But it's the part for the release is already done. It's just I'm waiting for someone who I'm working with. We had an amazing idea for the auction system, which is conceptually very fitting for the whole spirit of the collection. I'm not going to say too much now. I want to keep it a surprise.
Yeah.
But he's working on it, and obviously it has to be perfect and not being possible to exploit it. So that's what I'm waiting for.
Yay. Well, best of luck to you. I'm sure that it's going to
Yeah.
go amazing. Yes.
And sorry, the question was oh yeah. So right now I'm working on different stuff, but mostly I'm working on the residency piece. Yeah.
Hmm. Nice. And kind of like, okay, just to ask about your experience in the residency as well. Is it something that you're used to doing, like dedicating a lot of time researching the intellectual proposal behind a piece, kind of taking a lot of literature, videos? Is that similar to your normal process, or is this something completely different to what you normally do?
As you can see, yes,
Hmm.
it's and especially for this part, since I made both the process of creating the work and the research, I think a big part of the project. I don't want it to be something that is not part of the artworks. So each token has on-chain inscriptions within them, and you can access them, and it will tell the story of how I made them, the history, the research behind it, all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting because the token is just not the art, but also a kind of, I called it a self-museum. Like the token is the artwork and the museum dedicated to the artwork within one digital object. So yeah, as you can see, I'm used to research and think a lot about what I'm going to do and how to do it. Uh, yeah, but it's nice to have a bit of constraint. I love doing my own work. It's cool. It's cool. But since I'm always free to do whatever I want, sometimes having this very framed
Hmm.
adventure is cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think the deadlines help.
Yeah, I know most artists ever are always waiting for the last moment to have pressure to do work.
Mhm.
It's not my style. I'm the opposite. As soon as I can start, I'm like, oh, I have to do it now. I think it's something that I had during childhood, like going to school, and I wanted to be free to do whatever I want. So I would do my homework as soon as I got there. Sometimes even like during school hours, if the classes were boring, I could work fast. So I would just do my homework and go home and have nothing left to do except play. And I kind of never left this habit of doing stuff as, so I've never been bothered that much with deadlines. So yeah. And this time is no exception. It's not done yet because since I have time, now I can let it sit, go back, and I'm remaking them right now, and it's a process, but I'm not really. The deadline is fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you ever like um when you have like the extra time? Okay, this is my like bad student because I'm a procrastinator. And so I feel like if I write it in writing or when I submit a paper, I always leave it to the last minute because I feel like if I do it in time, then I overthink what I've done and then I
Yeah,
change things that I didn't want to change. So do you ever struggle with that as an artist as well?
yeah, that's definitely that's a great point because yeah, if you're going to do it in advance and then it will be left, and you will start at first to have guilt, like, oh, maybe I haven't worked enough, or but you just have to calm down and tell yourself, would I have taken more time if I had procrastinated? The answer is no. It's the same amount of time and energy. And it's just a bonus because you actually have time to finish it or think you finished it. Let it sit, not look at it for maybe 1 or 2 days. Try to do something else. And then you come back to it. And then some obvious stuff is going to show up and you'll be like, oh, I'm glad I still have time to fix that because it could be better. So that's usually how I do it, and it's helping. Sometimes you kind of discover the work uh, with the time you spend doing it. You have an idea of what the work should be, but it's taking you somewhere else sometimes. And like I said earlier, it's a matter of slowness and depth. And if you can't have a little bit extra time to let it sit and get deeper, you're going to miss some stuff. I think some artists who are doing everything last minute, maybe that's why they do uh, more pieces around the same thing because they've finished too early, too quickly, and they want to revisit it because it wasn't enough. And after maybe a few weeks after completing the work, and maybe it's already sold, they will go back like, oh my god, I should have done that, but it's too late. The work is out. And so
Mm.
if you have that. to me, it's the opposite. I prefer to. I don't want to revisit the same stuff forever. So I'm going to do it and take time to do it properly. And yeah, that's how I like to work.
Hmm. You sound like a very Zen person. Like now I feel like very tranquil. I'm like I want to let myself sit. um,
Well,
but yeah, yeah.
when you do it for a long time, some stuff, especially because I had a mix of doing my own personal work and some commercial stuff. Uh, you learn what is not useful. You learn to also lose less time. You learn to recognize when it's finished, which is obviously a big problem, especially when you
Mhm.
begin. You always want to add, and sometimes it becomes horrible, and then you have to go back and remove, and it's a long process. But I mean, if you do that for 1 or 2 decades, it gets easier. You lose less time. And also you have less guilt that doesn't help you. Some kind of guilt could be productive. I don't know if someone is especially lazy, they will have that guilt and I should work on it. That kind of guilt can be productive. It's a good thing. But a lot of the guilt sometimes is just like if you have that thing of forever working and it's never enough, it's not good. In the end, it's never about the quality of the final artwork. It's going to be just about uh,
Mhm.
your ego and maybe some internalized trauma of some kind, like you can't recognize it's been enough and respect yourself and the work for that. So it's something you have to work on. Yeah,
So
that's
if there was one thing that you could tell yourself when you were just starting out as an artist, what would you tell them?
it's difficult. It's the same with the if you had a time machine, what would you do? But the thing is that if you ever changed any little bit, it would be different, right? So maybe um, stay honest with yourself, know uh, when someone else's advice is good or is not, but it's not a real advice, right? I mean, without experience, you cannot discern the two. So I don't know. No, I'm I've had in my life I've had a lot of time this question. What would you say to beginning artists? I'm always like, I don't have any advice because what worked for me because I'm me, maybe it won't work for you. Or sometimes what worked for me at the beginning doesn't work anymore at all now. It was just something that was useful at a certain point in my life. And so I think it's impossible in art to make generalized advices that are actually useful, even sometimes stuff that feels very uh, consensual. Like, for example, yeah, you should treat your art with seriousness and spend time on it and not be lazy. And then at some point, someone is going to go crazy, just do whatever they want, be super lazy, uh, and it's going to be a great artwork. So, what do you know?
Yeah. I would say that maybe like flexibility as like a person to be flexible to like the
Yeah,
circumstances and yeah, I guess like the circumstances of life and
yeah,
Mm,
learning from whatever that life throws at you.
kind of like trusting yourself, listening to your intuition, I think,
yeah.
and just letting things flow. Um, but okay, as we start kind of wrapping up this episode, I wanted to ask you as well if you had any sort of final intentions in your mind for how you envision the rest of the residency to go or your upcoming the second half of the year.
Um, Not really. I think I'll be done maybe next week or something like that. I just want to take my time. I still have some technical stuff to do, like the piece is close to completion, but not really. But then I have the problem of how we're going to exhibit it,
Mm-hmm.
because my piece is interactive and the screens of the exhibition right now are not, but maybe we can do it. So I'm still, it's in process and I will see with the founders. Uh, but
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, I'm almost done with all the homework because I wanted to I was like, it's going to be sad if I um, at the last moment, like the last piece of homework, you discover something about the Renaissance, the artist, the work, whatever, and are going to be like, oh, this is so inspiring. I didn't think about that. And the work is already done, but I wouldn't want that. So I kind of did most of it in advance, and now I'm almost done with the program. And it's cool too because then you have time to look back on it. And yeah. So no, I'm just going to enjoy what's left, and especially the discussions in groups. It's last one was I think we had like something maybe 2 hours and a half or more 3 hours of talk and presentations and everything, and it was very intense. I think like everyone else, when it was
Mm,
finished, I was just like, my brain is completely kaput.
yeah,
Yeah.
But it was a nice talk. We deviated from art and kind of talked about the state of the world, I guess, and what we're going to do with all this tech and social and political turmoil. So I don't know. Artists
Yeah.
talk about basically everything.
That's also, I think I'm very excited for this weekend's residency session because I think we'll be able to talk about something that's a little bit more like spicy or controversial, I guess you could say. Um
politics.
but yeah, it's always like the residency sessions, we plan them to be 2 hours long, and then I think if we all had the time in the world, we would stay there for like 4 or 5 hours. But
Or
people,
as much as I loved it, this time I was just like, I was going to quit. I
yeah,
wanted to stay until the end, which I did, but I was at my upper limit. I couldn't do it anymore.
I get it, especially because of the time zones. Like some people like need to eat lunch, some people need to eat dinner,
Yeah,
some people need to go to bed. Like it's um it's crazy, but it's fun, and I'm glad that everyone really does put in the effort to show up
yeah,
and participate. So
Yeah,
that's all we
you
could
can
ask
feel.
for.
Yeah, you can feel the energy.
yeah.
For
It's
something for this to work, everyone has to be as enthusiastic about it, and I think you can sense that in the energy of everyone.
it's a good bunch. And I'm really looking forward to come to Madrid and see whoever comes there. So that's cool.
Yes.
I think we're going
I'm
to be a small bunch, right? Not really
mhm,
sure a lot of people are going to come, but then you have people from Thailand, the US, and so on. It's expected.
yeah.
Hmm.
Will you guys be there?
Yes, we will. We'll be
Yes.
here.
Okay,
Both of us are based here, so unless
Makes
we
it
run away
easier.
for the weekend.
easy.
Yeah. Exactly. But I know that there's an exhibition happening in Barcelona, I think right after, because it's like art
Yeah,
gallery in Spain kind of. And so there's a lot of activations happening nearby. So I think it's going to be a fun time for all of us to get together as well. Um but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on today and interviewing with us. I'm very excited for your final project and all of it, really. But yeah, thank you.
well, thanks to
Yeah,
both of
thank
you.
you
It's
for
been
coming.
cool. Yeah.
All right.
All
Well,
right,
just to
waiting
wrap
for
it up
Liz.
then. Yeah. Wait and hope.
Wait and hope.